Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
It's definitely not a unique experience. Going on vacation or traveling to a different country and thinking to yourself, imagine doing this every day. Writing up a report for your boss from the comfort of a beach bed in Santorini, or logging onto a meeting while sipping on an authentic cappuccino at a cafe in Rome. It's definitely crossed your mind, whether it was harmless daydreaming or whether you've basically ironed out all the details. It is tempting. But the challenges that come with living on the go, not knowing where you'll be next week or maybe even tomorrow, do have that record-scratching effect on the fantasy. And not to mention the costs, how much you need to save, where your next paycheck is going to come from, or whether the thing it will be spent on is worth the hit to your savings. But how hard can it be? And is the digital nomad lifestyle as out of reach as we think it is? I'm Maria Kestane, and today on The Big Story, I'm talking to Sonia Dheer, a digital nomad who's been to 40 countries and has lived in 7 of them, all under the age of 30. She took that leap of faith many of us fantasize about, the transition from living to work to working to live. Sonia, thank you so much for talking with me today.
Thanks for having me, Maria. It's great to be here.
So you describe yourself as a digital nomad who lives what you call the laptop lifestyle. Tell me what exactly that is and how you got here.
For sure. So the laptop lifestyle is basically, or a digital nomad is basically someone who travels full time while working remotely. So typically digital nomads travel a little bit slower than we would if we're on a vacation. So instead of, a 1-week trip or 2-week trip, a digital nomad is typically staying in one location for at least a month, usually around 3 to 6 months on average, I'd say. And while they're doing that, they're working remotely either for a company or they're a freelancer or they're working on their own business. So for me personally, I got started with this. It's been about 10 years since I first learned about what a digital nomad is, I would say. I was in university and I always knew I didn't want to follow that traditional path, but I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do. And then in between my first and second year of university, I took a bit of a gap year and I did a internship in Brazil. And when I was there, that was my first time traveling without family, or friends or anything. It was just me, and I was working there while also exploring a bit of the country. And I just fell in love, and I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to travel. But I was like, that's not realistic. Like, how am I going to travel? I need to get a job. I need to work. I can't do this full time. Like, who travels full time? That's just not possible unless you're a celebrity or just super super wealthy by birth or something. So I was like, I guess that dream's gonna be on the back burner. But I always kept thinking about it, and then on social media, I would come across people who are digital nomads that were traveling and working, and I was like, that sounds interesting. And then I read this book called The 4-Hour Work Week. I don't know if you've heard of it, by Tim Ferriss, but basically he teaches you how to leverage things like technology and automation and things like that to be able to work remotely. And the goal is to work 4 hours a week. That's a little bit hard, but he teaches you to how to work as little as possible while doing the things you love and being able to be location independent. So just reading that, doing my internship in Brazil, seeing on social media this whole digital nomad thing, that got me really interested in this lifestyle. And I was like, maybe there is a way I can travel full time while also making a living and building a business. And so about 5 or 6 years ago now, I guess, I had a job with a remote consulting firm. So this consulting firm doesn't have a head office or anything. Every consultant works remotely from wherever they are. All client work is done just through your laptop. And so I was working with them, and that's when it really hit me that you really don't need a physical presence to make an impact. Like, people are not paying you for a physical presence. They're paying you for your expertise and your skills. And so I decided that this was the time to try taking a leap into the digital nomad lifestyle. So I decided to save up a little bit. At that point, I was working for that consulting firm. I was also working at Starbucks and working one other physical job. So I decided to quit all my physical jobs, save up a bit of money, um, and just stick to that remote consulting firm job, and I decided to spend a month in Colombia, in Medellin, Colombia, because I've always been fascinated with that place and I had never been there. So I booked a month there, and I did my first kind of digital nomad trial. I was there for, yeah, a month. I was working there. I tried to just live life as if I was not on vacation, but like living my normal life. So I got a personal trainer. I was working in cafes, and I was just trying to live like I would back home, but in a different country. And it was a huge success. I was like, this is amazing. Like, I feel like I've cracked the code. This is exactly what I want to do. Like, I'm working, but I'm also traveling and exploring these beautiful places, meeting new people. And since then, it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And then I became a full-time digital nomad. So that's where I'm at now.
Right. I mean, that's such a crazy story from internship to trialing it. I mean, you kind of were part-time that 1 month that you went to Colombia and then you came back and you're like, this is for me. What was it like making that jump from part-time to full-time and just completely kind of going off the grid? I mean, objectively, there are so many risks involved, and we'll dive into each one. But what made you think that that was the right decision? What was the point for you?
I just felt super aligned, I would say. It's hard to say, it's hard to put into words exactly how I knew it was right for me, but it just felt aligned, it just felt right. I just felt like I had this perfect balance that I was looking for. I never wanted to work, just endlessly in my 20s and then retire when I'm 65 and then travel. So I just felt like I was able to do everything I want. I also didn't want to just travel and not work, because I do want to build a business and a legacy in that aspect. So for me, it was just, I guess, taking those baby steps helped me show little by little that it was the right thing for me. I'm very close with my family, so it was really hard taking the full leap, because now I only go home twice or three times a year, maybe. So that was a tough adjustment, and that was the one thing I would say was keeping me as a part-time digital nomad, because I was always like, I miss my family, I want to go home. But eventually you get used to it, and now I invite my family to wherever I am. So my parents visited me last week when I was in Florida. Next week I'll be in Brazil, so they'll be visiting me there in a couple months. So yeah, it's just a bit of an adjustment, but it feels right.
That's phenomenal. I mean, I think one of the biggest challenges that holds people back, yes, is connections and their social circle, but definitely the cost factor of it all. You know, traveling isn't cheap, and you said that before you went to Colombia, you saved up some money and you kind of tried to do things that would help you have a little bit of saving, have a bit of cushion when you went there. But just like traveling isn't cheap, rent isn't cheap, or a mortgage isn't cheap. But going from place to place has its own set of financial burdens, both planned and unexpected. Can you tell us what it's been like from the perspective of your wallet, I guess? What has that been like?
For sure. So yeah, I thought the same thing, especially when I was in Brazil. I was like, oh yeah, I can't do this full time because you need money to travel and all that. And yeah, it is expensive. But the great thing about digital nomadism is you're doing kind of like a geographic arbitrage, if that makes sense. So you're earning in Canadian dollars or US dollars, but you're spending typically in countries where the costs are like 50 to 70% lower than they would be in Toronto, for example. So when I was in Colombia, just like a concrete example, I spent a month there, and in total, I spent 3,000 Canadian dollars. And that got me my own apartment, like two-story apartment in the best, most bougie part of the city that I was in, Medellin. And so I had my own place there, 24 hours security, beautiful apartment with views. I had a personal trainer like three times a week. I was taking private dance lessons four times a week. I didn't cook a single meal. I had a private chef, and when he wasn't there, then I would just order Uber Eats, or I would go to restaurants. Um, I was exploring the city. I was taking taxis and Ubers everywhere, which typically, like in Toronto, was quite expensive. So I was doing all of that, just living completely like a queen, I would say, for $3,000. And so that's something that really opened my eyes, because I was like, whoa, like it really, life doesn't have to be super expensive. And of course, expensive is subjective. But I just imagined if I was doing those things that I was doing in Colombia, in Toronto, it would have cost me probably like 3 to 4 times the cost. So It's a lot of geographic arbitrage. It's also traveling slower. Like when you're at a place for a week or 2 weeks, the prices are going to be a lot higher. But for example, if you're booking an Airbnb for a month, you automatically, on most properties, get a discount for monthly stays. And beyond that, you can also now, I travel with my boyfriend full time. So obviously, we live together when we travel, and we'll always negotiate with an Airbnb. So we'll just send them a message and let them know that, we're digital nomads. We're not just going to be there for a week or 2 weeks. We're going to be there for 3 months or 6 months. And then we ask if there's some flexibility around the pricing. Because we are going to be there longer, they don't have to worry about, finding new tenants or renters. They don't have to worry about the cleaning or anything like that. And in our experience, they've been super accommodating and super they resonate with that. So we do get great discounts on properties, which also lowers our expenses. Um, and again, you're not on vacation, so you're not going to be spending the same as you would on vacation. Typically, when we're on a vacation, we're a little bit looser with our wallets. We'll eat out at the most expensive places or nice places. We'll buy a lot of things and all that. But you're going to be spending like you would be at home. So living out of a suitcase, I find that I buy less things impulsively because I know, you'll have limited space and things like that. So I would say the geographic arbitrage, the traveling slow, and just the fact that you're not vacationing, you're living. So you're going to be in a different mindset when it comes to spending. Those are the things that help keep the wallet happy while you're traveling. And honestly, it can keep your wallet really happy. I've met some people who've retired at 40 while traveling full time just because they were earning in US dollars, but living in somewhere like Bali or Thailand where costs are a lot cheaper, and they were just able to have a lot more savings while enjoying life and then using that to retire early.
Yeah. I mean, what about from the legal perspective? I'm sure it's nice to just pick a country and you head there for a few months, but are there any baseline like visa or tax requirements that you need to know? Are there specific countries that are more nomad friendly than others?
Definitely. There's about 66 countries, if I'm not wrong, that offered special digital nomad visas. So typically, you just have to show them that you have a job or you have a business that is making income monthly. Um, and just proof of accommodation and things like that, and then you can get that visa. So, yeah, countries are starting to see the trend. They're encouraging it. So, yeah, there's about 66 countries now that offer those digital nomad visas. In terms of taxation, yeah, it can definitely be tricky, and that's definitely one place that you have to do your research, especially if you're earning in Canada but in other countries. It can be a little bit messy, so I would say have a good accountant who specializes in that kind of thing so that you can make sure you're good in that aspect.
Yeah. Have you ever run into any issues in terms of like any legal issues or tax issues or
Fortunately not, and hopefully that continues. But no, yeah, fingers crossed. Luckily, I've been good so far. I try and do my research, and I try and stay on top of that stuff because I know it's important, so you don't wanna slack on that aspect for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think also it's important to touch on the safety aspect of it all, especially as a woman and you're in places that you don't maybe know or speak the language of or another culture of. And I know solo traveling has definitely boomed in recent years and women, have shared tips online in terms of how to stay safe or, practices that make them feel safer in different countries. But what do you make of the safety concerns some people have? I know you're traveling with your boyfriend, but before then, when you were alone, what did you make of those safety concerns?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, yeah, my first country was Colombia, and I heard a lot of things about Colombia regarding safety. So, I just made sure to do a lot of research. I think that's the key, making sure to do a lot of research on the internet. If you go on Reddit, there are a lot of threads around digital nomadism, different blogs, YouTube channels. But luckily, we have access to so many resources now where you can do your research beforehand and see what common scams there are in the country you're going to, neighborhoods you should stay out of, safety concerns. But I also do find that a lot of things can be blown out of proportion sometimes, and there's a lot of fear mongering at times. But it's just like anywhere. Like in Toronto, there's certain places I wouldn't go in the middle of the night, and certain things I wouldn't do safety wise. So it's just the same everywhere. There are places that you shouldn't go, places that you can go, things that you should do. It's a lot of common sense, also, I would say. Um, yeah, I would say it all comes down to common sense when it comes to the safety aspect. And then also just, yeah, making sure that someone back home has your information. Like I share my location with my parents. Even now that I travel with my boyfriend, we've been in situations where it's always good for someone to have our location. So sharing your location with someone, giving them all your travel details and your plan ahead of time to make sure they know where you are. Also, just familiarizing yourself with the emergency numbers of the country you're in, because not everyone uses 911. So whenever I go to a new country, I always try and look up like ambulance, fire, police beforehand, so that I can be prepared if God forbid something comes up like that.
Yeah, God forbid. I want to ask about a more personal caveat of your lifestyle. And when I say personal, I mean relationship wise. I know you have a boyfriend, but you didn't start off your nomad lifestyle with a boyfriend. Traveling from city to city or country to country, it's so liberating, and you could make game time decisions about where you want to eat or where you want to go, or, things like that. But I could imagine, a new set of challenges that come with doing this with a partner or a friend. Um, do you think this lifestyle is achievable with someone in a relationship, or someone that wants to maybe bring a friend along or some family?
I must say I'm very lucky. Me and my boyfriend actually met on a digital nomad at a digital nomad conference, which was cool. It was on a cruise ship actually. It's called Nomad Cruise. And so we met there. And for us, I guess we were a little bit luckier because we both already were digital nomads. So it was just kind of combining that lifestyle. I think it would have been a lot harder if I, you know, was interested in someone who wasn't a digital nomad, because then you got to do long distance or figure that out. So I think it can be a little bit tricky. I won't paint it as all rainbows and butterflies if you're in that situation, because I feel like if I met my boyfriend, he's Serbian. If I met him in Serbia, and he had a job there that kept him there, and I was traveling, I think it would be really hard personally. Um, but luckily for me and my boyfriend's situation, it did work out because we were both nomads. We are both interested in similar places. I think that can also be a point of contention. If someone's like, I want to stay in South America, but the other person wants to stay in Europe or something. So again, I'm just really lucky that we both align really well on that. And we travel well together. I think you can do it with a family member or friend. I think it's good to do a little bit of a trial first, because I feel like it's like it's like when you have a friend and you become a roommate, you learn things about them, or it's different when you live with someone versus when you're just friends with them. So I would recommend people do a trial with whoever they plan to do a digital nomad lifestyle with, because I've seen friends do it together and get closer than ever, but I've also seen friendships break because of that. So I think trial is always a good idea before before committing full time to it.
So let's get into the fun of it all. I'm someone who wants to become a digital nomad, but I know nothing about
Oh,
the
awesome.
logistics. No, 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 figuratively. I love my job, but I'm saying figuratively, I'm someone that wants to become a digital nomad, and I know nothing about like the logistics or like how to become one. Where and how do I begin?
For sure. So I would start off with doing an audit of your skills. So, a lot of people think that the digital nomad lifestyle is just for like tech bros or like young backpackers and things like that. But I've seen all types of nomads and of all ages, all backgrounds, all different jobs. Like there's some very creative jobs that people have that are letting them live this lifestyle. So try and keep an open mind. Like what I hear from a lot of friends is like, "Oh, it's so cool that you do that, but I can't do that with my skills or my job." But I think the pandemic really taught us that a lot can be done online. And again, companies are not really paying you for your physical presence, it's for your expertise and skills. So I would do an audit of your skills, see what skills can be done, can be used remotely, whether it's writing or designing or coding or communicating, and keep that inventory. And then another resource I recommend is nomads.com. This is a great website because a lot of times people are like, I don't know where to start. We have like, I think 196 countries. Don't quote me on that, but something like that. Um, and so there are a lot of options out there, and people are like, I don't know where I should go. And so nomads.com is a great resource to find out where you should go based on your preferences. So this website lets you toggle a bunch of different factors, whether it's temperature, um, places that are friendly, more women friendly, um, the internet speeds. So it lets you toggle all these different factors, and then it recommends locations that would be best for you. So I would recommend people check that website out because it gives you all the stats on where you should go based on who you are and your lifestyle. Because every nomad's different. Some people love working from beaches in Thailand, whereas some people prefer working in Europe and that kind of lifestyle and vibe. And some people love Mexico or Colombia or Argentina or Canada or the USA. So it just depends on who you are and what your preferences are. And that website is great for doing that, for checking that out. So I would say nomads.com, do an audit of your lifestyle. And again, this whole theme of trial, I would say do a little workation, try and take like a week or two off if you can, or not even a week or two off, but a week or two where you can work remotely and choose a destination and try living the digital nomad lifestyle for those 1 or 2 weeks and see how you feel. See where problems come up and if you like the lifestyle and try and adjust the logistical aspects. And then you can slowly work your way up to that full nomad lifestyle.
Right. Now, Sonia, what exactly do you do? What is your job that you do remotely?
Great question. So I have a marketing and communications business. So essentially, I work as a fractional CMO. So I'm basically the chief marketing officer for a bunch of small to medium sized businesses because oftentimes these businesses can't afford a full time marketing person or don't need a full time marketing person, but marketing and communications are important. So they do need support in that aspect. So I come in and I dedicate a few hours each week to each of my clients, working as kind of their head of marketing strategy. So that's what I do to live this lifestyle. And again, I work completely remotely. I never have in person meetings or in on site client sessions or anything like that. It's all just from my laptop, from Zoom and email and all that fun stuff.
You said that it's not just for tech bros or people on their laptops. I'm curious to know what kind of jobs are best suitable in your opinion for the up and go lifestyle.
Honestly, there's so many things. There are a lot of people teaching things, whether it's teaching English or teaching a language, teaching a skill online. I've met people who are photographers, nomad photographers. So they go to a country and they offer their photography services in that country. Therapists, consultants, um, all kinds of things. I've met someone who was an inner child specialist. So they help people who wanna get more
Wow.
in touch with their inner child and use that to grow their business and life and things like that, so the sky's the limit, honestly, like, every day, every time I think I've seen it all, I just meet someone with a completely new job that I've never heard of, and they're doing it from their from wherever they are, so it's super cool and super, open. You just gotta be a little bit creative with, it's not so much about your job title, it's just more about how you deliver value to people, so yeah, sky's the limit.
I like that. On the flip side of that, I'm curious to know, in your opinion, who or what kinds of people are not fit for the digital nomad lifestyle. I mean, just being real, because it isn't for everyone. As
Yeah,
glamorous as it may be and as fun as it may be, it's not for everyone. Who, in your opinion, is it not for?
for sure. I would say anyone with a job that is it's where being physically present is non-negotiable. For example, a doctor or a nurse, someone who's working in construction. I would say those jobs are not so digital nomad friendly. But anything that doesn't require physical presence, I would say, can be done with just your laptop.
Right. What about personality wise? Personality wise, who do you think this is not for? Like people that like routine or people that like structure? Who do you think it's not for personality wise?
Great question. I would say it's not for someone who needs a lot of structure. Because I feel like, when you work a 9 to 5 job, you have that structure. You kind of know what your deliverables are. You know where you need to be and when you need to be there and what you need to do. But when you're a digital nomad, it's a lot of freedom and you're depending on yourself a lot for those skills. So I would say someone who doesn't have great time management skills, I would not recommend this lifestyle to them because you do need strong time management skills. It can be really alluring to just want to spend your day like doing fun things and forgetting to work and then spending from till 4 a.m. working or getting behind. I think if you're a big procrastinator, it can also be dangerous because it is a lifestyle. Yeah, like you said, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. Like you do have to be on top of your time because there are a lot of distractions around you. So if you're not good at time management, if you're not great at taking initiative, um, and you are a procrastinator, I would say it's not the best for you. But again, these are also things that are um fixable. So it's not a life sentence. So if you feel like you're not great at time management, I think it's something that you can work on and then approach this lifestyle.
My last question, it's a personal question.
Yeah,
Do
no
you think
worries.
you might ever get tired of the digital nomad lifestyle and find yourself in a more stable, routine sort of living situation?
I think so. Yeah, definitely. Because as I get older, I feel like, yeah, maybe it's just about getting older. I do feel like I do want a little more stability eventually, and in the future, I do want a family. And there are nomadic families out there. Again, there's all types of different lifestyles. I've seen people travel with their kids and dogs and cats and things like that. And I've seen people do this, into their 70s. And yeah, I think the late 70s was the oldest person I've met that was a digital nomad. So, for different people, they don't really want that stability, but for me, I do eventually want it. It's about kind of right now for me finding that place where I want that stability, where I want to settle, because I haven't figured that out yet. But short answer to your question is yes, eventually I do feel like I would get tired of constantly moving around. And you can't see my room right now where I am, but there's like five suitcases completely open. I was trying to do my tech setup here, but my mics and everything are put away. So it logistically does get a little bit exhausting. There are lots of pros and fun parts to it, but there is also the realistic side of it is also tougher to have to move around constantly, pack up your life, and it does take away like the week. Like next week when I move to Florianopolis, I know that whole week is going to be spent just kind of unpacking, getting the lay of the land down, and so that does take away productive time. And so, yes, eventually I would like to settle down somewhere, and travel will always be a part of my life. I just don't think full-time travel will always be a part of my life. But also, who knows? Things constantly change. I didn't see this being my life 10 years ago, so who knows?
Sonia Dheer, a digital nomad who's making her way across the country and the world, making memories and money while doing it. Thank you so much for giving us a little piece of your lifestyle today.
Thank you for having me, Maria. It was great chatting.
That was The Big Story. You can send us feedback on this episode or any other episode by emailing us at hello@thebigstorypodcast.ca or leave a voicemail at 416-935-5935. You can find us on the Seeker app or on all your favorite podcast players. Please rate, review, follow, and share. I'm Maria Kestane. Thanks for listening.